Baruchim Abom B'Shem Hashem. Baruchim Abom to everyone here in the main shul, and everyone at Ezra's Noshim, and everyone joining on the phone or watching. Kol Mekayim B'Shehem. I'd like to give a big yashikoyach to Rabbi Pomerantz for sponsoring tonight's shir, Rabbi Weinberger Shlita, and whoever would like to have the schus is sponsoring one of the shiurim, call Egan Shir Torah at 718-851-8651, or email ist@yeshivanet.com for this great schus of Agudas Torah Derabim. Tonight we have the cover to have with us once again Rabbi Moshe Weinberger Shlita, Rabbi of Agudas Yisroel in Flatbush, and Yeshiva Mesivta Shalom Shachne, to speak on being an Akshen, take a stand. It's a very apropos topic to the Akdama about the appeal for the Matzav in Eretz Yisrael, take a stand. But anyway, I'll cover the call in Weinberger for tonight's Rosh.
I feel like I never left. It's good to be back. The Lutzker Rav has a Moiridik of art. It says that in the times when Sancheiriv surrounded Yerushalayim with his 185,000 soldiers, he put his sword in the door of the Beis Medrash, and he said, whoever walks out of the Beis Medrash, Yidoker B'cherev, should be killed with this sword. So he asked, since when is learning Torah something that's chayiv misa if you don't learn? Why should it be if somebody leaves the Beis Medrash, Yidoker B'cherev? Sounds very extreme. And he explained as follows. The Rambam brings down that when you're fighting a war, and if somebody runs from the battlefield, and with his running from the battlefield, he creates a situation of pachad and fear amongst his fellow soldiers, it's chayav misa. He's a deserter from the front. So when there were 185,000 soldiers surrounding Yerushalayim, there was a war going on. But the war wasn't on a battlefield. The war was being fought in the Beis Medrash. So if somebody would walk out of the Beis Medrash at that time, he's a deserter from the front, and Yidoker B'cherev. Rav Bald Shlita already mentioned that we can't forget what's going on in Eretz Yisrael. Mir dachtzach, lefi aniyas daiti, to my humble das, that which all of a sudden the government is not giving money to Bnei Torah, Rabbi Shalom wants pure Torah. He doesn't want Torah that's touched by a Medina that doesn't appreciate what learning Torah is. But one of the fronts is here in Flatbush in the summer. This has become a front in the battle. This has become a place where years ago the summer was empty. Now the summer is full of Torah. Rabbi Shalom that are coming together tonight should perhaps be the winning part of the war, and we should have simchas and shalom and klal Yisroel. What's the difference between a mice and a story? You have a lot of good stories. You can tell a story, interesting stories with shooting and with killing and with plots and with spying. And then there's a maisa. A maisa teaches you something. I wonder if the word maisa is also connected to the word ma'asa. It causes us to do something. Years ago, I went to Rabbi Elias, Zechreinu Livracha, one of the great mechanchim in Klal Yisrael. And he told me at that time, when you hear a story, the feeling is, I'm going to go right away and say it over. It's such a good story. He says, don't do that. He says, take a story, internalize it. Make it yours. You're not just a conduit to give over interesting facts. So I want to tell you a Maisa that I've said before, but every time I say the Maisa, I find a different nakuda in the Maisa. It was in World War II. There were many orphans, Rahman al-Itzlan, And a brother and a sister came to Eretz Yisrael. The brother was 16, the sister's 10 years old. Probably lost her entire childhood during the war. So now it came a question. They came to Eretz Yisrael. Where should they go? The 16-year-old is from. He remembered what it was to be from. And he says he wants to go to from a kibbutz. So they're going to send him, I think, to kibbutz Chafetz Chaim. I forgot where. But the girl's 10 years old. They're going to decide for her where she should go. So this fellow comes over to her. He's not wearing a yarmulke. Bald-headed fellow. And gives her two very precious items. A doll and a watch. Could you imagine what a doll was for a girl that spent 4 years in hiding? Could you imagine what the watch must have meant? And then he started taking her. And she asked, where are we going? So you're going to a nice place. She asked him the following question. Are we going to a place where people do this? And she waved her hands when they light candles on Shabbos. And he said, no, that's the old world. This world, we don't have to do that. It's a different world. And she says to him, I'm not coming with you. That's not the place I want to be. He was very touched that the girl had that strength of character. And he said, okay, but you can keep the watch and the doll. And she said, no. Because if I keep the watch and the doll, then I owe you something. And then I'm going to have to listen to you. I don't want to listen to you. Take back the watch, take back the doll. What a story. Is that called taking a stand? Sometimes we have to learn from children. Children don't know yet the art of compromise, the art of pshara, the art of watering things down. So besides that, this story tells you that this girl must have had a fantastic chinuch. It says something about the strength of character. Some of us have it naturally, and some of us have to work on creating it. To have a mahalach, a chayim, a pathway in life that is clear. Yaakov Avinu sends Esav a message. He says, Vayili shor v'chamor tzoin eved v'shivcha. Tells him what he has. I want to tell you something. He says, I have oxen, I have donkeys, I have sheep. But he didn't say one thing which he sends him later, which is gummo. He didn't tell him, I have camels. So why did he leave out the camel? Why didn't he say also camels? He sends him tons of camels later. Why doesn't he tell him camels? So Meshech Chochmah says as follows. If you look at a shor and a chamor, they're very different. A shor has both simonim that you need for kashrus. Split hoofs, choose its cud. A chamor doesn't have any simoni kashrus. Does not have split hoofs, does not chew its cud. A gamal has one and not the other. It's malagera, it chews its cud, but it doesn't have split hoofs. So he was giving a message to Esav and saying like this. Everything by me is black and white. There is no gray area. When he tells him, Im lovon garti, tayig mitzvah shamarti, v'loy lamadati mimaisim aroyim, he's telling him, not only did I keep the 613 mitzvahs, I am so clear that there's no gray area. I used to go to my accountant, and he used to ask him, do I have to put this down on the paper? And he'd tell me, it's a gray area. I'm not sure what that meant, but it was a gray area. Somebody who goes through life, it's clear. It's obvious. What a satisfaction. That's being alive. It says in the first kapitel in Tehillim, that a tzaddik is ke'et shosel al pargei mayim. It's like a tree with deep roots. And a Rosh is like a kamoitz. It's like a piece of bran falling off a grain of wheat. I think it's not just a criticism and a praise. It's an uptight. It's explaining what's the difference between a tzaddik and a Rosh. Not all Roshim are intrinsically bad, but they have no mahalach achayim. And since they don't have a path in life, they get blown around. Today they do this, and tomorrow they do that. There's no mahalach, there's no pathway. But the tzaddik has roots. He knows where he's going. He knows how to get there. And when the winds of time and the winds of real rishus or real herd mentality comes, he's able to withstand. Why did I pick this topic? Because of this week's parsha. Because I learned in Tells, and I learned something called Shirei Das. And there's a Shirei Das on this week's parsha entitled Behirus Emunah, Clarity of Emunah. And we talk about Pinchas. Vayar Pinchas, Pinchas saw. What does it mean? What did he see? So the Medrash says, Ra Maisa, he saw what's going on. V'nizker halacha. Now, I want to try to picture together what was going on at that time. Chaos is not the word. Confusion doesn't do justice. What was going on? All of a sudden, the B'nais Moav were unleashed on Klal Yisroel, and their taivas overtook them to such an extent that not only did they live with them, but they pulled out a little avodah zarah from their pocket, and they said, well, if you want to live with us, you got to bow down to this first. So all of a sudden, the Kedusha of Klal Yisroel was under attack. Not only that, Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron are trying to get together the Bezdin to start killing those people who violated and did this immoral act. In the meantime, Zimri ben Salu comes along in front of Moshe Rabbeinu with Kozbi Bas Sur, and he says, is this lady mutar or asur? And Moshe says asur, and then the Mechutzif says, well, why are you able to marry the daughter of Yisroel, who's from Midian? And then Moshe and Aaron start crying. So here's the scene. People are being mizan all over. There's a Bezim trying to kill those people. This fellow's coming as a mechutz Moshe. Moshe and Aaron are crying. Pinchas says, you know what? The halacha says that if somebody goes ahead and lives with a guy in public, he's supposed to get killed. So he goes to Moshe and Aaron, he says, Moshe, isn't this the halacha? And Moshe says, yeah, it's the halacha, go do it. And he does it. What kind of vision is that? What kind of taking a stand is that? But I had an insight I want to share with you. Who was Pinchas before this happened? If I was Pinchas, I would not mix in. I would say, listen, my father's a Kohen, my grandfather's a Kohen, and I'm not a Kohen. I was left out. I would be depressed, right? Depressed. And I would say, obviously, Hashem does not want me to get involved. Because if Hashem want me to get involved, wouldn't he have made me a Kohen also? And he's a regular citizen. But Ruah Ma'asav in this Kahaloch, he saw something, and he stood up for it. And Hashem gives him a brisi shalom. He doesn't give Moshe Rabbeinu ever these words, brisi shalom. He gives Pinchas brisi shalom. And in the Medrash says, "Bedini tol schar." He deserved it. Why? Moshe Rabbeinu's job was to be the defender of Klal Yisrael. Who was Pinchas? He was a regular fellow. Yeah, he had big yichus. But that was gadlus. Gadlus not to be taken in what was going on around him. Not to let the times dictate the halacha. You know what? Imagine you would have gone over to somebody else that says, you know, you think I should kill him? He says, listen, Pinchas, there's so much going on right now. Could you imagine somebody would go over to somebody and say, you know, I'm tying my it's all going on now, this nus. And he goes to his friend and says, I'm tying my shoe now. Which shoe do I tie first? He said, listen, now's not the time to think about how to tie your shoes. Now, what's one stabbing going to do? And look what it did. Besides that, it made him a claim for all the generations. It saved Klal Yisrael. So there's something to be said for living a life with clarity. Not to live a life that's a gummo life. This is Pinchas Eliyahu l'shitasei. Because when it comes to Har Carmel, and he's standing there with Klal Yisrael, or Oiv Avodah Zarah, and he tells them the most interesting statement. He says, how long are you going to keep going back and forth? Im Labal, you want the Baal, go to the Baal. You want Hashem. He's giving them a choice. He's telling them, if you want Avodah Zarah, you want Hashem, go Hashem. What do you mean? They give them a choice? They have a choice? They have to go to Hashem. He's telling them something tremendous. I heard it from Avigdor Miller years ago. If you're a fellow that's willing to take a stand in life, I can sit and talk to you and explain my mahalach, and I can convince you. If I could convince you that you should be a Satmar Chassid, and you're willing to do it, that means you're a man of principle, because I was able to convince you. But if you're a fellow who one day someone tells you A, and the next day someone tells you B, and then you switch, I can't even talk to you. He says, stake out your claim. You want to take a stand, you want to be Baal? Fine, let's talk about it. But if you're one day Baal, one day Lashem, I'm going to speak to Lashem, and tomorrow you'll be LaBaal. What did I accomplish? So Pinchas, who's Eliyahu, could not stand the fact that these people don't have a backbone. They're not willing to stake out a position that I could discuss with them. And that's why, whenever there's a shaila in the Gemara and we don't know who's the one that comes and helps us, who? Eliyahu. Why? Eliyahu's clarity. Eliyahu is going to be the one who's going to paskin the halachas forever. The same klarkeit, behiras, and munah that he had at that time is the same behiras and halacha that he has forever. And he lives forever, and he's there forever to guide us and help us. This is Pinchas. So what about us? Now there's two types of stands. One is public and one is personal. That means Pinchas took a stand, it was a public issue, and he took a stand. We don't always have that opportunity to take a public stand. Maybe sometimes we do, but basically we need to take a starkheit on our own lives. We need to be an action keneged the Yetzer Hara. Dahainu. For example, let's talk about emunah for a second. Emunah. Everybody has emunah. So if I come to you and I say, will you lend me $10? She'll say, listen, you're a rabbi, I trust you, $10, not a problem. How about $100? 100? You know, Rabbi, I trust you, give me an IOU, get $100. How about 1,000? You know, Rabbi, it says in the Gemara, we're supposed to write a shtar, let's get 2 Eidim. 10,000? A cosigner would just make me feel more comfortable, not that we really need it, but 100,000? Right now I don't have that cash on me. Maybe someone else can. Well, what happened? Don't trust me? Yeah, but the trust is limited. So now let's talk about Amunah and Kadosh Baruch Hu. How strong is our Amunah? How strong is our Amunah? Rabbi Meir Bloch used to give the following mashal about how strong Amunah has to be. Someone's walking down Ocean Parkway, and there's a bench. And the bench says wet paint, and it's shiny. What does everybody do? They want to touch it. Why are you touching it? It says wet paint and it's shiny. Because the touch and the feel is more emunah. It's clearer. So now, if I want to live with emunah. So the more you mechazik yourself in the Emunah, the more it's clear to you. The more that there's no question about Emunah. So v'ala apostle in Shir Hashirim. Shuvi shuvi hasulamis. Shuvi shuzi v'sech zebach. Ma'atechsuk mechilas hamachanayim. So Medrash says like this, 4 times shuvi. In Golos, the Goyim say, come. You'll make you senators. We'll make you soldiers. Come join us. And we answer back, what can you give us, like the mechilas hamanachanayim, the simcha and dancing of the camps? What is that referring to? The Degolim. What could you give us like the Degolim? What is so special about a flag? A degel says who you are. A degel means we're not supposed to be senators, not soldiers. It's not our costume. It's not our suit. Our suit is Torah. Our suit is the degel. If we're Zvul and Yisach Yehuda, whoever we are, knowing who we are is taking a position that will do well for us. I want to share with you a famous Gemara. It's a famous Gemara. But there's a point that Reb Simcha Zisel Broida makes in this Gemara. Because how do you do that? How do we create for ourselves such a clarity of life? So Gemara says as follows. Shimon HaTzadik said, Miyomai in his whole life, Le'achalti Osham Nazir Tomei. So a fellow became a Nazir. That's very good. Decided to separate him from this world a little bit. No wine. He's going to be a Kaddish. He's going to be holy. And then he becomes Tomei. Right? Now he has to bring carbon, start all over again. The 30 days in the Zira starts all over. So Shimon HaTzadik never ate from any of them. He was always scared that they have charata. They feel bad they became a Nazir. Now they became Tomei. You have to start over again. He's not eating because it's not lishma anymore. It's with a krechts. They'll do it. But it's with a krechts. One time he ate. What was the story? He saw Nazir min Adarim. Nazir came from the south. He had beautiful eyes. V'toiv roi, a beautiful appearance. V'kutsayisav seduras like taltal, had beautiful curls. Very handsome. Amarti like b'ni, my son. Ma rois lahashches arech zano. Why are you destroying your beautiful hair? Because you have to cut off your hair. Amli roya yisilab biri. I was a shepherd. Halachti lamalas mayim in mayim. I went to get water from the well. V'nistakalti b'bavoya shali. And I looked at my reflection. Seems like you never saw it before. Upachas alayitzri, and the Eitzahara came upon me. Upikesh l'tardeini min island. And he wanted to take me out of this world. He's going to make me a Balgaiva. You make me think I'm beautiful with everything that, all the evils that can come from that. Amarti loy, so he spoke to the Eitzahara. He spoke to him. Russia. Lama atam iskoy bo'elim sheina shalach. He's talking to himself. Russia. Why are you miskoyer? Why are you becoming a Balgaiva? Why are you filled with pride on a world that's not yours? B'mishuasali a of v'saleya. At the end, you're going to be worms. Question, what did he see here more than anybody else that became a Nazir? What did he see here? Every Nazir is a great person who for some reason decided that he needs to separate a little bit from Eilam Hazeh. The Pasuk says, Ki Yafli, and the Eved Ezra says, Yafli's Lashon Pel. It's a wonder that anyone should become a Nazir. So Simcha Zisa Brayda says like this. There's a lot of reasons people do something. Usually it's because they have a cheshbon. It's not worth doing this. As a mitzvah, an aveira, I'd rather do the mitzvah. This is not something that's worth doing. It doesn't pass for me. It's not fitting for me. A yid doesn't do this. I need to do something to be makabel. This fellow had a whole distinct approach. It's not my world. It's not my world. Beauty, physical, it's not my world. My world is the world of Ruchni. My world is a spiritual world. My world's here in the base medrash. I once heard or saw, if you go to an embassy of the United States in Switzerland, or the Swiss Embassy in the United States, when you walk in there, you're not in the country that you're in, but rather in the building's owner, whether it be the United States or Switzerland. That's the country you're in, and that's the laws that apply. The Beis Medrash is the embassy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. So when you walk in, you're not in the world. You're in a Beis Medrash. You're in a Beis Medrash. Olam Sheina Shalach. There's a way of looking at it. I forgot, I think it was a Gadol once said, if I say a shtickle Torah, okay, and there's an Amoritz in the room, and he doesn't like it, he doesn't understand all the intricacies, why it's right or wrong, it might bother me. But if I go outside and I say a shtickle Torah, and a horse snorts, it will not bother me. That's the way we have to look at the world. So it's not just a question of how strong is my emunah, but to the point that there's nothing else that can influence me. We live so much in a world of compromise. I remember I was in Lakewood one time, and parents came over to me, and they wanted to speak to me about the issues that they have, chinuch issues. What do you think was on their mind? You know what was on their mind? Here are Balabatim, some of them they Torah, still learning. How do we handle the fact that our children are exposed to other children that have every luxury in the world? I'm not sure what to answer them. But I want to tell you, this week, the following shaila came up. If you want to argue with me on it, that's fine, but not in public. There was a question of some boys going to buy some clothing. The question was asked a little differently, but it's really the same question. Should they go to 13th Avenue and buy a suit there, where they might be exposed to preachers on the street? Or they should go and shop online where they can avoid the preachers and go, Hostadea, what do you think? So the parent that I spoke to say, they're not touching online. We're not doing it. For 100 years we bought on 13th Avenue. You go buy on 13th Avenue. You're not touching online. He took it. I tell the Bachar, if your parents don't have internet in the house, go home tonight and kiss their feet. Kiss them. Tell you thank you. Thank you for saving this. It's tough. It's tough to, growing up, I should make believe I grew up in the 80s, but I didn't. Rabbi Yitzchak, go about the 60s. Who didn't go to college? Go to college, of course. Brooklyn College? Pre-Toro? Everyone went to Brooklyn College. You didn't go to college? You had to fight to stay in yeshiva. So it was Bacher in Eretz Yisroel, by Rabbi Lapian. And he said, listen, I'm going home for Mena's Man, and my mother wants me to go to college. What should I tell her? Tell her when she comes to Shemayim after 120 years, she'll be happy that you sat and learned. Okay. He goes home. It's a strange thing to tell his mother. I don't know if she's English or Polish or Americanish, I don't know. And he starts telling her something else about how chashuv learning Torah is, and finally gives up. She's not listening to him. So he says, you know what? After 120 years, you'll be happier. Made a Rosh Hashanah. But it was a fight. I remember to take your tzitzis out was a big statement in those days. I don't know if any of you had them. So I took my tzitzis out on Yom Kippur, because that was the day no one's going to make fun of me. Matzah Yom Kippur, I didn't know. But Yom Kippur, I knew it would be okay. The first halach in Shulchan Aruch is lo yishbayish b'fnei hamalikim, not to be embarrassed, to live with an azus de kedusha. So, but the Beis Yosef says, but don't fight. Zogt the Mishnah, to be halacha, That's for personal issues. You just do what you have to do and don't pay attention to anybody. But if in the city they're trying to make laws that are connected to Torah, then you have to stand up, and then you should fight and be mavaza them and hate them and do everything you can. So where do we stand? We get watered down with our Yiddishkeit. Of course, chutzah could be a terrible thing. I want to tell you about one of the world's biggest mechutzafim in the world. His name was Reb Shalom Shvadron. Now, when we were growing up, we followed Reb Shalom. He was like an icon to us. Reb Shalom was like, every time Shalom spoke, we went and we listened. Reb Shalom was B'teva big mechutzaf, as the first story that he told over, and then the second story he told over. The first story is, was Shiva Tammuz, and they were davening in Chevron Yeshiva, and they finished my Nasrus after Shkia. Now, the way I heard the version from him, which is printed differently, is, so he held the after Shkia, don't say Tachten. So as soon as he finished my Nasrus, he said, Yiskadal. We love that, right? They say Yiskadal. That's the minute. People think it's part of Shemar Esrei. Shemar Esrei is Yiskadal. Yiskadal! Rabbi Leib Chasman. All the Rosh Yeshivas off the Mizrach Van. There's a new Rosh Yeshiva. After that. Poor guy. I feel bad for him. He probably meant well. All Rosh Yeshivas off, so now Rosh Yeshiva. Shalom Shadran is Rosh Yeshiva. Kid said that's called an Nazifa. That's called giving it over the head. So he decided on his self-imposed punishment. He's not coming to yeshiva the rest of the day. He's in chayrim. And he decided. So he passed on himself that he's in chayrim. Kitza, he calls him in. And Rabbi Leib gives him over the head and says, now go learn. And then he said, Rabbi Leib said on him, I knocked out half his chutzpah with that mice. What happened to the other half? Take the other half of Shalom. In those days, there was a vad for Shmir Shabbos. So the Bachrim would go out Friday afternoon and tell the storekeepers to close the doors on Shabbos. Remember, Yisroel then, Yerushalayim wasn't like today, it was a big mixture. Those streets where they went. So one group went to Zichron Moshe, one group went to the Bukharim, which today you won't find a Friday there. But then they had to go and close up the stores. He was the Zichron Moshe group, and there was a Chayiv Bukharim group. All of a sudden, one time they're going Friday, he's in the Zichron Moshe group, and he is screaming, don't hit us, don't hit us. What happened? It was a barber over there on Bukharim Street. And they used to go every week and do two things. They told the barber to close up, and now that they stood outside and told the people, can't take a haircut now, it's too late. So what did the barber do? He got this big bulvan, big friar guy, to take care of them when they came. And when they came, he threatened to hit them. So the 5 guys ran away. Reb Shalom heard this, he says, 5 against 1? Why'd you run away? So if you would see him, you would have also run away. He says, fine, we're switching next week. I'm going to Zichron Moshe, B'churim, you can do Zichron Moshe. Came the next week. He comes to the barber shop, and this fellow's outside. He says, close the store. He said, if you come next to me, I'm going to beat you up. Close the store. Shabbos is coming. I'm warning you. So he comes closer, and Reb Shalom, the big Reb Shalom, opens up his sleeve, and the fellow runs away. So up to Reb Shalom, if a person has azus de kedusha, nothing could stand in the way. You have people on Makabel to learn Daf Yomi. You have to be in action to learn Daf Yomi. You have to be in action. You got to get up early in the morning, sometimes late at night. And if you want to chazer it, but that's Akshen. How many times do we see Bachar? There was one Bachar growing up in Tells. Whatever you told him, it came out verkehrt. Abaya was Rav and Rav was Abaya. He would walk down the halls, learn with me. It was action. He became a Talmid Chacham. His children are Talmidei Chacham. He was an Akshen. Sometimes we have to be an Akshen for Ruchnius. And that's the only way we could survive. The Satmar Rav says, Yisroel azin sheb umasheim. That's why they got the Torah. So Pashut you learn, because if we wouldn't got the Torah, we would destroy the world. Because they're azin. He says, no. Only az person could go ahead and be Makayim the Torah. But the dangers of azus is very dangerous. And Mishnah Berurah says himself, because az is not a good midah. I heard the niflik of art today. And it's zicha, I heard it because I have to say it over, and I think you'll appreciate it. It's Rabbi Aryeh Levine, Zichroinu Levracha Zavart. Eliyahu Navi's Pinchas, yeah, we just said. Clarity, stood up in front of the whole Klal Yisrael. Lamate Pesach Hashtei Sipa. Then Eliyahu runs away. Kadosh Baruch Hu asks Eliyahu, Malach Eliyahu, what are you doing here in the Midbar? He says, Kanai Kanesi, I can't stand being in Klal Yisrael. He said, again you're being Makana? Time to leave this world. Sounds like it was a tain on him. What was the tain on him? He's Kanai Kanesi, this is Eliyahu Navi. He saw what's going on in Klal Yisrael, and he ran away. He can't take it. He gives them musa, they don't listen. So Rabbi Levine said like this, depends where you are, what generation you are. The generation Moshe Rabbeinu, which was on a very high level, over there, you go ahead and you put your foot down and you go ahead and kill the people. But when during everyone's serving Avodah Zarah, could be we need a different mahalach. You have to know what's right. But you have to know that not always that as azos have to come with such a starkheit in such a time. The Mishnah is soiser itself from one Mishnah to the other. One Mishnah says you have to be az kanemer. The next Mishnah says az ponim legehenim. And then it says Yirotzain shibana beis hamikdash v'sein chalkeinu. So I saw pshat from Gedolim. You have to be an az kanemer, but you have to know if you do it wrong, az ponim legehenim. How will we know which azus we should pull out of the hat? No. Shibana beis hamikdash chalkeinu b'Torah secha. Only through Torah, only through the Mikdash, will we be able to be clear. But I want to say over another way how we can hold our position. How do we hold ourselves strong? I saw this from Rav Pam. I have written down B'Shem Rav Pam. Kalev ben Yefuneh goes to Chevron to daven. And you know what? He gets Chevron as a reward. Now, he went to daven, that's fine. But why does he get Chevron because of that? Just because he went to daven there, he gets Chevron, he became attached to the place. Why does he get Chevron? Here's what Rav Pam said. Why did he go to Chevron? The Meraglim had tremendous cheshbonis what they were doing. They didn't want to lose their Nesias. They felt if they come to Eretz Yisrael and they live a regular life, they won't be able to handle Yiddishkeit. It's too hard. In the Midbar, you have Mon, you have Mayim, you have the Shachne, you have an Anikovet. They can keep the Torah. Come to Eretz Yisrael, I don't know if they're able to keep the Torah. So they had all these cheshbonis, and they were right, except they were wrong. What would give him the power? If he loved Eretz Yisrael enough, it wouldn't make a difference. You know, the Meraglim, after the Ma'aseh Meraglim, Klal Yisrael went up on a mountain and said, Chotanu, we're going to go fight. Chotanu, we're ready to fight. Moshe Rabbeinu says, you can't go. Frag the Dubna Magid, they did tshuva. They said, Chotanu, why can't they go? So the Dubna Magid gives an amazing mashal. And I want to say over the mashal. There was this balabas, rich balabas, tzach eingechapt in cup. He wants his daughter to marry the Rav's son. And he'll support no matter what. Shachne comes to the Rav, and the Rav says, okay, but he has, no, I can't give anything. I have nothing to give. Nothing. I have nothing to give. If he's masking, fine. Come to the Vart, beautiful Vart. The rich man put out a beautiful Vart. He bends over to the Rav and says, Efshe, a ringala, an earring, a necklace, bracelet, something. The Rav said, told you I don't have. What? Nothing? And he storms out. Versteht sich allein. So tut sich von alle Seiten, the crying, the screaming, whatever. The girl's embarrassed, the boy's embarrassed, everybody's embarrassed. Finally, they calm the rich person down, and he comes back, he says, okay, I'm masking. The Rav says, I'm not masking. Why not? If you were willing to give up, I thought you understood what the greatness is of my son as a Talmid Chacham. But if you're willing to give it up for a couple of ringalach, that means you don't appreciate. You can clap chatonu from today till tomorrow. If you don't appreciate, it's not negate. Klal Yisrael goes up at the mountain and says, chatonu, we made a mistake. You don't appreciate Eretz Yisrael. If you don't appreciate Eretz Yisrael, you don't get Eretz Yisrael. There's nothing to do with clapping al chet. Kalev knew the only way he could stand against Meraglim is if he gets a love of Eretz Yisrael that cannot be shaken. So he went to the Avos, because the Avos loved Eretz Yisrael. He went to the Avos, he davened that he should have the love of Eretz Yisrael that should be able to defend him against the Atzas Meraglim. You get Chevron, because you connected to the Avos. It's not just you mispal by the Avos. You connected to the Avos. You went ahead and you took the Av of the Avos, and that's how you withstood it. So the first thing is, as we said, you have to know what's your world and what's not your world. If it's not your world, your action. You have to know what you're down here for, what you're here to accomplish. And if it doesn't fit in, if somebody wants to be a doctor, okay, he wants to be a surgeon, he doesn't knock nails in the wall. If a guy's a pianist, he watches his fingers. If a fellow knows that his goal in life is to be an Shachne, so he doesn't spend his time reading, looking, thinking about things that are inconsequential. I once saw a sign on a bus, an advertisement for a dentist. Ignore your teeth and they will go away. Ignore your brain, it will go away. Ignore your neshama, it's going to go away. Go and do that. I want to tell you one time in Klal Yisrael where they almost got destroyed because they were mesupik. The mice of Kairach is also fascinating. It seems that they already knew they were going to stay in the Midbar a long time. And Kairach felt that he didn't get what's coming due to him. So Korach made Mishkan Kairach. I remember my Rebbe of Giftas Atzal said, a movement, the Kairach movement, the anti-Moshe movement. He was a socialist. He was a communist. Everybody's equal. That was his slogan, right? And then he got them Reuven involved, and he got Snaviram. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, stand back, I'm going to kill all Klal Yisrael. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, Ish echad yachta, one person does an Aveira, you're going to kill out Klal Yisrael. Why do you want to kill out all Klal Yisrael? It's Kairach, the 250 Rosh and Hedron, Bnei Reuven, Dasan Vaviran. Why does he kill out all Klal Yisrael? Zok the Ramban. Because Klal Yisrael said, you know what? Let's see what happens. We're not sure. Let's see. They were mesupik. They wanted to see who's going to win in this battle between Kairach and Moshe Rabbeinu. They're mesupik. If they're everything I showed them, they still have a suffix. They can't stand on Moshe Rabbeinu's shoulders. They should all be killed. Forget, the question is, what did it help to say Ish echad yachata? And on that, Ramban has a long arichas how that works, Ish echad yachata. There comes a time where we just can't be mesupik anymore. If we're going to be mesupik, then if we don't have a fortified emunah, if we're not eight shasal palgemayim, then the winds of time, the winds of ideas, the winds of immorality, the winds of apikursus, they won't make us apikursim. They're going to rub off on us. Man darf sein stark, man darf lieb haben the Bashefa. You have to love the Rebbeinu with such a passion that nothing. Steht da Posik in Shir Hashirim. Steht da Posik in Shir Hashirim. Steht da so. Mayim Rabben lo yuchbu lahabas chabas es ava unaharim lo yishtafu imiten ishes hein beisai bois yevuzulai. Many waters cannot extinguish the love. Flowing rivers cannot wash them away. Flowing rivers cannot wash them away. And a person will give all his money, can't do anything to take away the ava. Zok de Briskarov, what's pshat in these three things? Mayim Rabim, Naharos, and Mammon. Mayim Rabim is when you live among the nations of the world. There's so many nations, so many religions, so many mahalchim, so many ideas. Maybe that'll tell Klal Yisrael, who said you have a Napoli on it? No. If you have Avo L'Yichul Chabas, then go and make Zeras. That's Naharis. That's rushing waters. Lo Yishtafu. They can't wash away the Ava. And money, they'll threaten us to take away the money. That won't help either. Zok de Briskarov, that shaf haftas Hashem Elokecha chalavavcha v'chol nafsha v'chol miyadecha. Now, when it comes to public things, like we're going through now, the anti-Yidden feeling in the world, the anti-Torah sentiment in the world, and someone might think to themselves, well, maybe efsher. What do you mean? The Gedolim have said that this is the Mahalach. We stand with the Gedolim. We don't have the smallest suffix in our minds. And if somebody has a suffix in his personal life, let him go ask his Rav. Let him go ask his Rebbe. Let him go ask his Rebbe. And find out. And then, that becomes your Lo Chabos. And then you're alive. Then you have a life. Then you have a Mahalach. Tyre Yidden, everybody has little Pinchas. Everybody has Azus. The Matmachamaisa, Halacha, what's Halacha? The Brisker Rav became Rav and Brisk. I think it was Yom Kippur. They came to the Brisker Rav and they said, you know, there's a prisoner, a Jewish prisoner has to get killed in the prison, but the rule is, the law is, we can't kill him until the rabbi speaks to him the last time. You have to come. He says, is that true? You can't kill him till I come? I said, yes, we need you to come. So I'm not coming. I'm not going to come. But kids, they threatened. Eden was scared. They said, go down. There's going to be a pogrom. Halacha says I cannot be Makar of the Mesa. Another Yid. He didn't go. Besides, the fellow was freed. And he saved his life because it was a toyas, etc. Melep mit halacha, without a shaila, is a mensch can only gain from that shaykhis with Rabbi Shalom for every time he keeps the tziva HaKadosh Baruch. The Rabbi shall helfen, ein safek moitzi midei vadai. If you're a vadai, this fakeness won't affect you. And Mirz Hashem, you'll be dovek in the Eibishter, and be zoichet to taka that yoim bohir, yoim agodol v'hanoira, sheyibona beis hamikdash, v'sein chalkeinu b'seresach. Thank you for listening. A good nacht.
Shame, Irgenshire, Tyre Moses Boston, like to give a big Yasher Kerach to Weinberger for the very inspiring Joshua. Let's give a Yasher Kerach to Mendy Pomerantz for sponsoring tonight's shir. Also, like to give a big Yasher Kerach to the Kimmel family for sponsoring tonight's shir. Lila Nishmas, Shlomo Yisroel, Ben Micheskel, Shalom, and Yitzchok, Ben Chaim Meir, Shalom, the Yortzites, both today, Yudches Tammuz, and Ishmasem Churus, B'Tzor HaChaim. Rabbi Say, to have the great schluss of sponsoring a share call, Irgenshire, Torah 718-851-8651, want to email ist@yeshivanet.com. Also to have the great schluss of being B'Shtatef in the Tzaros and Yisroel, the campaign, the Gedolim are calling on everyone to be B'Shtatef, to support the Olam HaYeshivas and Eretz Yisrael. Irgenshire Torah is taking part in it. We have a page on Raise It /Olam HaTorah /I Rabbi Eliezer Bald, Elozer Bald, B-A-L-D, or you can call on the phone 732-686-6100, option 2, and then extension 992915. 992915. Just flies around the shul with information. Just gonna mitzvahs. Yashkech Lomar for coming. Chananya ben Akashem. Rosh Baruch Hu Lezakes. Es Yisrael Figure Himmel Ter Mitzvah Shenem Al Nei Chofes and Masitkoy Yagdol Ter V'Yader.
Hi.